ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, good morning. This is Arlene and you're listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. Today I'm going to give you all the updated news from Southeast Asia, and the latest one now is about the haze from Kalimantan. So hotspots double in Central Kalimantan. The province has been the worst hit by forest fires raging over land embedded with coal deposits that make them almost impossible to put out during the dry spell. This has led to a spike in the number of hot spots. Central Kalimantan is struggling to deal with the haze that forced schools to close again after they reopened for one day on Friday. Schools had previously been forced to close for a record of 3 weeks from September 10. And the government had been water bombing the fires in Pulau Pisau Regency on Friday, but the fires re-emerged at the same spots this morning, coming from underneath. And this is according to Ms. Rani Anggriani at the Central Kalimantan Governor's Office. And a much larger amount of water, possibly only through rains induced by cloud seeding, is needed to put out the fires in Pulau Pisau. And of course, where the layers of peatlands can reach more than 5 meters deep. They are closely monitoring the situation. Cloud seeding operations will start as soon as Central Kalimantan has clouds. And on the other news about U.S. Muslim activists, they actually sue Myanmar president over treatment of Rohingyas. Muslim rights activists has filed a lawsuit in the United States against Myanmar President Thaksin, accusing him and several ministers of human rights abuses against minority Rohingyas just a few weeks before an historic general election. The complaint filed on Thursday in Manhattan federal court accused Thaksin, the top officials of planning and instigating hate crimes and discrimination amounting to genocide. According to the plaintiffs, Muslim Rohingya are subjected to genocide, torture, arbitrary detention, cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment by officials controlled by Thaksin and his ministers. Myanmar's government spokesman was not immediately available for comment but did not respond to email requests. The civil lawsuit was filed by Burma Task Force, a group of 19 Muslim organizations, and Rohingya man Hite Luin O. On another news about Myanmar as well, Myanmar to sign a peace deal with 8 rebel groups on October 15. After more than 2 years of talks, Myanmar's government is eager to reach a deal with rebel forces before November's general elections. More than 2 years of talks to end decades of civil war in nation's rugged borderlands have gained momentum in recent weeks, with the government eager to reach a deal before November's general election. But hopes for a nationwide ceasefire have crumbled after several rebel groups refused to sign an agreement without the inclusion of all insurgent forces, notably some smaller organizations locked in conflict with the army. They will keep inviting all ethnic armed groups to sign. This is of course according to the government, referring to the 15 rebel organizations that they have agreed to negotiate with. And majority of the group, including the Kachin Independence Army, have refused to sign the agreement. Clashes between them and government troops have intensified in recent weeks as the negotiation reached a critical juncture. We'll take a short break. When we return, we will discuss more on the news in Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, this is Arlene. You're back with me again at the ASEAN Daily. Moving on to Thailand on the news. Around Southeast Asia, Thaksin's son gives Thai police reward for Bangkok blast probe. The reward from Pathongthep Shinawatra follows Thai police rewarding their own officers some $84,000 for arresting the bombing suspect. The reward from Pathongthep Shinawatra is the firstborn son of the populist leader Thaksin Shinawatra follows Thai police rewarding their own officers with that amount of rewards. And he said that my team has handed 7 million baht or $192,000 to the National Police Headquarters to boost the spirits of officials. And this is his comment in his Facebook post on Saturday. Thailand's National Police Chief Jakthip Chaikinda confirmed the money had been received, telling reporters on Sunday that the sum was marked for police officers involved in the investigation and those who provided tip-offs. Mystery still shrouds the motives of the unclaimed attack. On Sunday, Jakthip said police had not ruled out any motive for the crime, with warrants out for more than a dozen other suspects believed to be involved. There is only one other man in custody over the attack, a foreigner named as Yusuf Mirali, who is a Chinese passport holder of Uyghur ethnicity. On the other hand, on our northern side of the neighbor in Southeast Asia, Laos is in the spotlight again over human rights. Human rights violations are again an issue in Laos, and a thorn in the side of a government more concerned with centrally planned economic policies following the death of 61-year-old Thiang Quyen Thien Thong. Thiang was originally arrested for praying for a sick woman without government approval. Reports say he was denied medicine for diabetes. He was jailed 9 months ago, released in March after his condition has deteriorated substantially and died on September 17. His death comes almost 3 years after the disappearance of a well-known agriculturalist and rural reformer, Sombath Sompin, who has not been seen since December 15, 2012. CCTV footage obtained by his relatives show him being bundled into a police car. His wife and relatives recently marked 1,000 days since he went missing. Kingsley Abbott, a legal advisor for the International Commission for Jurists, recently said government investigators should have informed Sombath's wife and family of their progress. But the government of Laos has done none of that. This is according to the legal advisor Kingsley Abbott. Also in September, there was a botched kidnapping attempt which involved a police officer on a Protestant clergyman. The clergyman died, according to media reports. The Lao government's defensive attitude and blanket denials have made its UPR a farce. The latest Laos UPR has clearly shown that Vientiane is unwilling to address important human rights issue. We'll take another short break. When we return, we'll discuss further on the economic side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene. You're back with me again. So on the economic side of Southeast Asia, Philippine banks is ready for ASEAN financial integration. The Bangkok Central Filipinas said that the local banking industry remains strong but should gear up for the impending financial integration within ASEAN. they are clearly in a position of strength as an industry, and individually, the banks in the Philippines have been enlarging their domestic footprint, constructing bricks and mortar branches out of the greater metropolis, creating other banking offices which are scaled down bank operations and capitalizing on e-banking technology. According to Tetango Co., the Philippine banking industry remains to be in a position of strength as total resources of universal and commercial banks grew by 11.6% between 2010 and June 2015, while their non-performing loans ratio remained low at 1.9% in July. He said financial technology has positively transform the banking industry in the Philippines as over-the-counter withdrawals now run in a parallel on to online banking services, where the speed of transactions is limited only by bandwidth. On the other hand, talking about ASEAN, called for ASEAN member nations to narrow the income gap. ASEAN member nations have been urged to make serious concerted efforts to narrow the income gap between the rich and the poor as the measure to gain a bigger success with the launch of the ASEAN community. Former Prime Minister Tun Abdullah Ahmad Badawi said that ASEAN countries should also ensure their people enjoy their economic progress. Abdullah said that these were imperative as ASEAN remained the central player in bringing together important countries and groups like China, Japan, India, and the United States, the European Union, and Russia in a constructive dialogue and engagements for peace and economic progress benefiting it and the surrounding regions. He said that in terms of total trade, there had been a six-fold increase from $430 billion in 1993 to $2.5 trillion in 2013. Abdullah said ASEAN Plus 3 was integrating well with China, Japan, and South Korea, making up for 42% of the foreign direct investments flowing into ASEAN. He also mentioned that ASEAN member states were becoming the largest source of investment at 17.4%. Moving on to another news, which is our socio-cultural news. Lanka, Vietnam seek greater bilateral in tea, coffee sector. World's leading tea producers, Sri Lanka and Vietnam, sought a greater bilateral trade with India and the fast-growing tea and coffee sectors. Today, there is a need for India and Vietnam to join hands and increase trade between the two countries in the fast-growing tea and coffee sectors. Vietnam Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development Vu Van Tham told reporters after inaugurating Third World Tea and Coffee Expo 2015 in Vietnam. Vietnam is the leading tea producer in Asia and exporting their product to Europe and Africa. In view of the tremendous scope in these sectors, they have come up with a business delegation of 20 leading companies from Vietnam to be part of the Niche Expo, which offers a unique networking platform with India and international companies in the hot beverage sector, according to Tham. And internationally, the ready-to-drink tea and coffee market is growing annually at the 11% rate and likely to touch $125 billion by 2017, with the highest growth coming from the Asia-Pacific region. Big demands for stylish, modest fashion as more Malaysian Muslim women don the hijab. Well, when Dewi Dahlia Rani, 26 years old, started wearing the hijab 4 years ago, she didn't give up being stylish. Instead of a jubah, which is a long, loose Arabic robe, she began dressing in modest yet stylish clothes like long-sleeve blouses and full-length skirts instead. The young homemaker, who follows Muslim fashion personalities who wear headscarves or hijabs like Malaysian Vivi Yusof, Indonesia Indah Nada Puspita, and Kuwaiti Asia on Instagram, said that she finds she can be fashionable while wearing the hijab. She said she considered modest dressing according to her Islamic faith to mean covering the head, neck and arm, as well as the whole leg. As more Malaysian women wear the hijab and change their wardrobes accordingly, modest fashion is fast becoming a lucrative industry in the country. According to Muslimah in Style co-founder Amy Aliza Yahya, some 5 million Muslim women in the country cover their heads and dress modestly. Modest fashion also appeals to non-Muslim who prefer comfortable clothes that do not expose the skin unnecessarily. According to ERA founder Raja Nadia Sabrina, a popular fashion blogger who has over 109,000 followers on Instagram, receives 700 hits on her blog daily. Closing up our social and cultural news, we go to Thailand. So Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal, unfortunately, is mixing tennis with politics with their Thai trip. The recent Thai trip. The two of the world's top tennis players, Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal, came to Bangkok to earn a few $1 million for an exhibition match, but there were a few strings attached. Before the Friday night match, Djokovic and Nadal swapped tennis clothes for formal Thai silk jackets in baby blue and pastel yellow. The dress code was part of a tightly scripted trip meant to boost military rule Thailand's image, which included meeting with the junta leader. One requirement for the easy money in Thailand apparently was the dress code. The two players were outfitted in traditional silk jacket in colors of respect for the country's monarch. Djokovic wore yellow, the color that represents the King of Thailand, and Nadal wore blue in respect for the Queen. In the formal attire, the players visited the ornate Grand Palace and then met with the junta leader Prayut Chan-o-cha, who led a May 2014 coup that overthrew an elected government and then installed himself as Prime Minister. According to Prayut, he's glad that the two of the world's best tennis players are here in Thailand. And this is what he told to the US Open champion and the number 7 ranked Nadal during a meeting at his office known as the Government House. That's all for our news today. Thanks for listening. And we will always air our news commentary every Monday to Friday live 8 to 9 o'clock Malaysian time, GMT +8. You can always listen to us live at durianasian.com or via your mobile by downloading our Durian ASEAN app. Or you can also listen to our podcast at our YouTube, Durian ASEAN or Durian ASEAN TV. Catch us on social media. We are quite active on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. So see you and have a great Monday.